If you're not able to, I can also share it myself.
Yes, thank you. It will be it will be good for me if you can to share it.
Then I guess I will first maybe start by greeting everyone. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Peace Talks Plus session hosted by the Horn of Africa Institute for Peace and Security. So my name is Miriam Mustari, and I am the Peace Talks Plus coordination intern at HOIPS, and today I will be moderating this session. So for those who may not be familiar with our institute, so HOIPS is an independent regional institute dedicated to advancing peace, security, governance, and development across the Horn of Africa. So what we do is address the root causes of conflicts and instability through research, capacity building, dialogue facilitation, digital innovation, and regional partnerships. So we bring together a lot of experts, practitioners, and institutions that come from Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Sudan, and South Sudan, and all of that to develop locally led and sustainable solutions for regional challenges. So Peace Talks Plus is our flagship dialogue series, and this is where we connect experts, practitioners, and stakeholders, and this is all to discuss critical issues affecting peace and security in the region. So the sessions provide a platform to share knowledge, highlight best practices, and encourage interactive discussions that, of course, supports practical and actionable solutions. So we are very, very pleased today to have with us Dr. Fawzi Banao, who will share with us insights on a rising and increasingly alarming challenge, which is climate change, and also its contributions to conflict and instability in the Horn of Africa. So before we begin, I would like to thank all of our participants for joining us today and encourage you to engage actively and ask questions and also reflect on the lessons shared during this session. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Fawzi to start his presentation, and I'm going to share it right now.
So thank you, Mariam. I thank the Horn of Africa Institute for the invitation about this very interesting subject. So my name is Fawzi Banao, and I am a applied researcher in developing economics. So basically, my focus of interest, it is a mixed profile. A research profile, I have a research profile and operational profile. At the one hand, about my research profile, I have an Erasmus Mundus PhDs in defense economics, and my research cover war economics, border economics, and the globally macroeconomic impacts of armed conflict in Africa, and also I have produced some research project on resources mobilization in war context. So also, at the other hand, have developing an operational experiences because I collaborate and working with some international organizations such as World Customs Organization or Unity Mission of officers of crime and drugs. So it is my brief presentation, and I am very glad to present you the topics, the interesting topics about climate, security, and resources management in war context. So, I can to, you can to pass the second slide, please. So this is the plan of these seminars, and as you see, there are an introduction and motivation for the globally research question, and we will talk about climate change, security links, natural resources management, and lastly, some policy recommendation. So at the beginning, the climate change issue, it is a very, very important challenge for our contemporary times. And in this way, all countries are impacted by climate change. And this affects several sectors of the societies. And we have environmental sectors. It is the first sector impacted by climate change. Governances especially for developing countries, but also state stabilizers, because there are links between these three sectors. So the climate change impacts seriously natural resources management and governances. So here I want to present you a map of the African continent. It is a map of all violences and armed conflict in a time of 20 years for the African continent. And when we are looking at this map, we observe that the Horn of Africa, it is one area that is impacted by armed conflict. And in this way, the climate change, it is an determinant of this situation since several years. So the mix of climate change and natural resources management creates some challenges for African countries, and more especially for the Horn of African area. So it creates firstly and political instabilities, because the climate change reduce it improve the insurgency movement for the social, so for the social societies. And this is a one issue. Secondly, about the natural resources management, the African countries are very impacted by the natural resources governances, because most of African countries are some rich countries, and they can't good manage natural resources, and this creates some problems about the state stabilities. In this goal, natural resources and climate change, the mix of these two challenges creates some important challenges for the state stabilities, the African state stabilities, more especially for the Horn of Africa area. So it is the goals of these seminars. It is to evaluate how the climate change, natural resources management, and political stabilities are linked. We will explore it in our seminars. So at first, I will begin to explore the climate change and security links. So globally, the climate change have an impact on ecosystem stabilities through several channels. Agriculture and food securities, forestry resources, and biodiversity are the channels that the climate change impacts the ecosystem. For example, for the agriculture and food securities, the climate change influences the crops productivities for the farmers, and this creates an instabilities for the resources of farmers. And in this, consequently, the climate change has a very, very impact on the capacity of household to be faced against climate shocks, such as the rainfall intensity, or when there are low rainfall. And we must to return a very simple structure. When climate change impacts productivities. This reduce the capacity, the financial capacities of farmers, and this create and food insecurities for the household. And this is one aims studies for researcher that attested that the climate change improve the poverty trap of the household in Africa, and more especially for most of African countries from Horn of Africa region. So, as I said previously, climate change or climate shock reduce impact negatively social sectors through the economic factors of the household, as I say, reducing of the productivities, but also it impacts the political stabilities of the state, because it reduces the state capacity, the state social stabilities by the improvement of the inequalities, by the improvement of the marginalization situation. And about this example, we have a raising of migration of the population from the more stable, from the more unstable countries to the stable countries. And the migration also is justified by the raising of the crops, the falling of the crops productivities. So in this way, it is clear that the climate change, it is a great determinant of the political stabilities of the Horn of Africa area. So what is it do in the practice? There are several international organizations that act for the reducing of the climate change impact. So we have the United Nations Environment Programs, but also the United Nations Climate and Peace security hubs that are some very important actors in the Horn of Africa area. The aims goal of this international organization, it is to improve the capacity of the household and the state to be faced about the climate change negatively impact. So to do it, they encourage and develop the climate smart agriculture techniques for improve the productivities of crops, but also there are developing types of climate security programming by the improvement of the expertise about the climate change solution, by the improvement of the local climate security awareness and capacities for the beneficiary, for example, for the household, but also some sensitivity of tools. And all these instruments are used by the international partners to improve the capacities of states to be faced against climate change variabilities and negatively impact. So now I want to talk about the natural resources management and armed conflict resources and armed conflict impact. So at first, we come to talk about natural resources management if I don't speak about the natural resources course. What is the natural resources course? It is a theory that the researchers are developing to highlight that when a country is in an abundance of natural resources, for example, mining resources, and more he have less capacities for manage her resources, and more it improve poverty, and it improve it decrease the development sustainability. So this concept has been in very, very interesting topics for most of researchers. For example, Collier and Al attested this theory. So moreover, for example, some researchers as Berman and Al show that the active meaning would improve the armed conflict in Africa. So in this goal, I present you a figure about the Seglum, the god Seglum in peace times in blue color, and in war times in red color. So we see that the level of the Seglum activities of gold minerals is very high during a conflict period. So this situation highlights that the natural resources is a very, very important for the state stability. Why? Because at first, it is an very important resources for domestic taxes mobilization for the state, because average most of Horn of Africa state, the natural resources such as the mining resources represent average 30 and from 30 to 50% of domestic resources mobilization. So, and in this goal, a bad resources management of these products can be a very impactful for the state capacities about domestic taxes revenues. And as I said previously, the illicit trade of natural resources reduce the capacities of state to collect domestic taxes revenues. And this reduces the state to finances war effort. This reduces the state to finances the development sustainability such as infrastructure or healthy sectors. So this is the first point of view that we must get. So secondly, not a bad natural resources could improve the rebel groups financing, because I attested, for example, that there are a positively links between terrorism activities and gold Seglum activities. So the armed groups or the insurgency movements have finances in Africa. It is proven that it is financing by the mining Seglum and the illicit trade sectors. So this is a 1-2 M's figure that we must to understanding on the links between natural resources management and the onset of the armed conflict. So 1 M's also channels that the illicit trade, it is in channels of the illicit financial flow, because the armed groups or the insurgency movements, when they extract minerals, they must to put it in the formal channels for finances or activities. In this, consequently, it is an aimed channels for the money laundering in this country. So I also talk about gold and diamonds, because most of African countries are producing gold or diamonds minerals. And these minerals is very interesting because firstly, we come to easily extract them. And secondly, it is very easy to sell it in the black market. And in this way, it is important to be pay attention about these two minerals. So I present you a map about the gold custom fraud. It is my research topics. I evaluate the links between gold custom fraud and terrorism activities, and in this goal, I produce this map. This map shows us that the illicit trade of gold, it is a very impactful for the state stabilities, because more the state is unstable and more the state is an illicit trade producer. So we see that in this graph, for example, the Horn of Africa, the most of countries of Horn of Africa are very impacted by the custom fraud trafficking. So I want to finish by show it is also in a research project that I produced this figure, and we see that the conflict intensities increase with the active mining in Africa. So more the mines are active and open, and more the clashes, the social clashes, the civil clashes also improve in Africa. This is a graph that I attested. I used several types of mining, and all mining attested that when an area have a mining resources, and more he faces to the armed conflict situation. So I want to finish my presentation with some policy recommendations. So I propose 5 policy recommendations. At first, it is necessary to implement a natural resources, climate, and security framework program. Why? Because it will help the state to federate her policy thoughts against this 3M situation. So it is a very important to develop a coordination, a fight against natural illicit trade of natural resources, climate change, negative impact, and security and stability. So secondly, I propose it is very important to implement a climate finances framework in a global domestic resources mobilization. Why? Because law of African countries have and specify climate finances tolls, and it is urged to implement these tolls, because it will help to action for fight against climate change to be more independently for the states. So moreover, it is necessary to implement and establish an fiscal and environmental administration department. So this department will join the forces to be faced both of climate change impact, negatively impact, but also illicit trade of mineral resources or forestry resources. And this will be a coordination for all action against these 2 aims challenges. So moreover, it is important to additive the private sectors in the action, because the private sector will be a very useful for the financing of the climate change impact, but also it will help to fight against illicit trade of mineral or natural resources or natural resources. So lastly, I suggest to support, to implement and encourage some local research, institution about this subject. So this is my my policy recommendation that I come to propose it.
Thank you so much. I think I'm going to stop sharing the presentation right now so that we can move on to our discussion parts, because I have a few questions that I think would be interesting to, reflect on. So maybe I will start just depending on everything that was said by maybe thinking about this relationship between climate change and conflict a little bit deeper. So can you maybe imagine a link between climate change and ethnic divide? And by that, I mean to think about a sort of causal relationship where climate change would lead up to forced migration, and this forced migration would lead to a stress over resources, leading eventually to increased or exacerbated ethnic divide in specific contexts. Do you see this as a possibility? Do you view that there are other factors that might be more important in here? I just want to see how you view this link, especially in the Horn of Africa. And I will move to another question later after you answer this one.
Okay. Thank you for this question. At first, the climate change and migration, it is a reverse causality effect. So the migration, I tend to say that the migration, climate change, and security, it is a reversely relationship. Why? Because when the people mingle in an area, it creates some instabilities with the local household, and in this way, it creates a political instabilities. So, in reversely, the climate change also create a migration of the population, and I think that in the case of Horn of Africa, we must to take in account globally the globally relationships. We don't see that there are a unique relationship that climate change create and migration. No, the migration also creates some instability situation, and this creates some negatively impact of for example, for the crops productivities.
Thank you so much for this contribution. I think it's interesting to still continue to think about this relationship, because I feel like there are many things that can create nexuses with climate change, and that would create some challenges for us, especially in the region. And I'm thinking also of terrorism, only because there have been some studies before that I've read, and I remember a specific case a little bit far from the Horn of Africa, but still in Africa, so I think it's still very relevant. I read that the shrinking size of the Lake Chad basin created some sort of like murky waters that kind of facilitated illicit smuggling of arms by extremist groups, and it was kind of a way to grow their operations. And I think it's interesting to kind of reflect on these dynamics, especially in the Horn of Africa. Do you see a similar phenomenon happening? And how do you think we can prevent such a thing from happening?
About the climate change and so I want to take an example. In a conflict situation, we have an migration, and more especially in African context, we have a migration of the population. So this migration, when people migrate, it creates some instabilities at local levels. because, for example, there are some problems of property, crops distribution. Generally, the local household don't want to give them crops to the new people that comes in the area, and this migration in consequently creates an instabilities for the population, and consequently it creates a very difficult situation for the international organization to implement and project to implement, for example, some strategies for adaptation of the local and for the household in this area. So I think that we come to compare the case studies, and for each countries, we must to take in account of the specific roles of the countries. It is the one reason that for the development of the TEPS in a goal of climate change, implementation, adaptation, there are the sensitivity analysis that we implement about this, about the adaptation, the good project that we can to implement in an area or in countries.
Then maybe lastly, before we move on to our participants' questions, I would like to maybe reflect of whether we should be having a more comprehensive approach to this issue between climate change and, of course, the conflicts that are induced by that.
Thanks, Paul, for the hosters, Mr. Fazli. My name is Mukhtar Dagan Ahmed from Mogadishu, Somalia. And the question that I have is for all of us, so not everyone is a specific person. Like after discussion for this in cluster or these situations, you know, as Africans or everyone, we are divided into two parts as African, those who are in rural area and those who are urban area. So those who are in urban area, in majority of them, they use social media. So as a group, Horn of Africa Institute, do we have a base or a social media where we have post this situation, how to interest others to engage? That's my question, Mustafa.
I respond to the question, or?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. About the social media, it is a very interesting tool, but it can be a very, very useful for the training, for example, for the training of the farmers about climate smart adaptation and climate smart techniques against the climate shock impact. So this is the first thing that I can to say. So secondly, the climate, the social media, however, can be a channel for political instabilities. For example, in a case of terrorism spillover effect, we see that the social media, it is one instrument that the extremist group use to inform her, ideologies and to inform her practice. So in a case of climate change, it is very useful that we can use the social media. However, one thing also we must to return is in most of African countries in unstable situation, there are a low internet access. And to use a social media, we need some good infrastructure, we need some good internet inflow, and this is a one M's problems that can be to be faced in a goal to use a social media tools.
Mr. Verzi, thank you for
Can you hear
that.
me?
I well understand for your points, but
Sorry.
as African in African content, my countries are not seen, but the content is seen, right? In the world now, I think after some years we are moving for digital. So, and like for example, organizations, those who work in Africans, whether they are international or they're local, most of them they used in beach or social media to post their activities or tasks. So, and according to me, it is good to upgrade some beaches or a place where they have been engaged to post. This is, this topic that you are representing today is very interesting for this community. So if you discuss it here, we are not spread it out. That is, I think it is effective for the side of the community. So if it's possible for the managers of this institute, try to create a pages where we have been post in these informations as change this information. Even you can change this information as pictures or videos to prepare it. So how to interest others. Thank you all, guys. And I highly appreciate you. It's time for prayer. So I wish you all the best.
So,
Sorry.
Excuse me, let me answer him.
Can
I think
you
this
hear
is a
me?
question for the Horn of
Hello?
Africa
thank
Institute
you.
that he was asking.
It
Dr.
is a
Fauzi, let me
novel
answer,
question.
please.
Hello?
The question
Can
I
you hear
think he
me?
meant to ask is.
So I want to
Okay.
finish with with the question. So I agree with your point of view, but as I said, one aims issue it is that in most war countries and in most war area, there is some destruction of communication infrastructure. And without communication infrastructure, we have no access to social media. And this is the one aims challenges for the country in instability context. So because the rebel groups or the belligerent groups don't want to the development of the infrastructure coming from the central government. And in this way, they destroy roads or infrastructure. And it is a good recommendation and it is a good thought, but it is more adapt in peace times, I think.
I think we have a question from Molly who wishes to speak.
Can I add something before, please, before he answers this question? I just wanted to say what Abdulrazak or Bakr said was true, and we have someone, like we just hired someone for the graphic design and everything, and they will be cutting off the videos and slowly sharing them on social media in a professional way. So we're working on that right now. That's a great idea. We have all of these videos saved, and we will be posting them there after this. So just to put it out there.
That is great. That's what I want. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask one question? Please. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Fine.
Yes, we can. Perfectly fine.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for this to give this opportunity for me. My question is for Dr. Fauza. Nowadays, most in African country and especially in the Horn of Africa, there is no stability in peace because of different intervention from the Western policy and different things. But in my point of view, most of them are lost indigenous knowledge how to indigenous knowledge can be solved different problems, like especially in the Horn of Africa. Most of conflicts are stable with local knowledge, but how to integrate the indigenous knowledge into the Western policy to more efficient and effective implementation to peace stability in the Horn of Africa. And the second question is, in the Horn of Africa, in Peace Stability Institute, what do you do? How uses to improve their capacity building and their knowledge to fight with a peaceful mandation with other people, in especially in the Western one, to make stable peace in the Horn of Africa.
So
In different way. Thank you.
So
can I continue before you? Sorry.
Excuse me,
Actually,
please. Let the person. You'll be called Debella. Let the professor answer the question first.
Okay.
So why don't you allow others then to ask a question, then after that you can respond all those questions together.
Actually, no, because asking too many questions at once, asking singular questions is better than asking all the questions at once. So you will be called, the moderator will call you. Just respect the process, please.
So I come to respond to a few questions. It is good.
yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So of course, it is very important to improve the local knowledge of the population. So it is not. I think that currently international organization develop these tools. It is each area have a specific knowledge, mindset, and the specific roles, the traditional roles. It is not the same for each area, and it is very important to implement this point of view in some projects, for example, in the Horn of Africa area. So it is very important for the. I think that in globally for the state programs, the state government programs, it is important to adapt each area with each policy reform, with each policy action in the same countries. So this is the first my first response. And secondly, improve the capacity. So I think that women, for example, it is the first target, household target that all policy recommendation must include in the action. So because they have an important roles in the traditional structure, it is an example. So secondly, about recommendation, the property roles for the crops influences state stabilities at local level, but also crops productivities, because more the property is better organized, and more the state, the area is stable, because there are no conflictuality situation between groups in the area. So I want to say that it is very urgent to implement this local point of view, this local knowledge about the traditional roles, about the property rules in a traditional point of view. I don't know if it is it is good for me for this question. It is very
Thank you
useful.
so much. Thank you so much for your answer. There's another hand raised from Debala. If you can take the floor.
Thank you for this opportunity to bring, I think the case of Africa is the concern of all of us. Since I joined my high school and almost I have 15 years on work and I'm hearing about the conflict in Africa. I'm hearing about this stability, poverty, and we learn it on history about the past history of Africa, pre-colonization, transatlantic colonization, decolonization, restructuring, redevelopment, and the movement, Pan-African movement is, and all those guys, they hand over the political authorities to the Africans and they left. However, globalization brought them and we couldn't start from the scratch. African countries, they can't start their own development from the scratch because of the globalization. Now everything dumped in Ethiopia from the foreigners, just for example, I hope in other African countries. So my concern, I really appreciate the Horn of African Peace and Security Studies Institute. They are doing good. They are doing good. My question is how to influence through this. Just we have two rivalries. Now in the past we were enslaved. We were purchased as a community by those guys. But nowadays we are rivalry against one another, really, which is shame in history. Instead of submitting one another, instead of listening one another, instead of thinking for the nations, even within a country, rivals against one another. Neighbor countries, they are rivals against one another. But someday, we are Africans, we are blacks, we were left through the shameful history. Nowadays, I don't think climate is the source of conflict. How do you, this institute, this research, this recommendation impact the leadership, the actors? Now, where is the destination of this gold? Where is the destination of these extracted minerals? How we
Thank
can
you very
impact?
much.
How we can impact the policymakers? How we can impact through this? How we influence the leadership to bring the powerful, the influential sector together, to listen each other, to sit together, to bring to the table, at least to minimize the ongoing rivalries in neighboring country, rivalries within the country, those who are devastating the country, lives, resources. So my concern is, thank you.
Thank you for your question, but I think that one part of answer must be due by the Horn of Africa Institute, and this question, it is M's political question. So currently, the political question, it is another mind of state of this topic. So it is, of course, the political instabilities, it is an situation, but I want I can't to answer objectively to your question, because it is a geopolitical question. It makes several thoughts for your question, and for me, climate change, it is not a currently problems. It is a past. It is a problems that had been exist since several years. but currently it's accentuated with some situation. For example, as I said in the slide, the illicit trade of forestry resources, for example, create some very difficult management of natural resources, but also mineral exploitation. It is a very EMS issue. So, of course, all these questions are linked to political topics. But globally, I can't say that the political issue it is another question that we come to discuss in some other discussion or presentation.
Thank you.
I don't know
think
if you want to, yes, if you want to answer, or the Horn of Africa also want to answer to this question.
I fear we don't have a lot of time, and I think we're gonna move on quickly to the two raised hands. But please make sure that your contributions are very short, as we don't have much time. So Abubakar, can you please take the floor?
Oh, yes, thank you so much, Mariam, for this, for the floor. First and foremost, I want to say thank you, a big thank you to Dr. Banawo for the brilliant presentation. Then deeply, let's say, the analysis was not only insightful, but also remarkably relevant for the global context we live in. So a world in constant turmoil, where competition of sources, political, economic, security dynamics. So the topic is both fascinating and timely. It highlights one of the central challenges our century, how to transform natural wealth to effective stability, development, rather than driver, violence, and division. Currently in the Democratic Congo, I found our presentation resonant. DSE represents one of the most striking examples of how
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I don't know if it's just me, but I think there are some interruptions.
All right,
maybe
so
if you could just ask the question and
So I come to respond to her question. It is very simple, that you want to know how to transform the abundances of natural resources in a good sustainability development, if I understand the mind of this question. So as I say, firstly, reduce, fight against illicit trade of mineral resources. For example, German minerals have been called that it is the war minerals. Diamond and gold are called war minerals. So we must to fight against this this trafficking. So secondly, improve governances. So because mineral resources, mineral sectors in most of African countries are some sector impacted by corruption activities. And we must to fight against corruption activities, because it is the corruption activities that create some bad development activities, and this create some bad sustainability development. And to better manage natural resources, it is the one aims action that most of African countries must to develop. Fight against illicit trade, better governances, and promote political stability.
That's a great response. I would like to call on our last person to speak, Zainab. Can you please contribute with your question?
Good evening, everyone. As we come to close of this peace talks on climate security and resource-based conflict, I want to sincerely thank all the participants and presentations for your excellent insight and thought-provoking discussion. Your contribution have truly made this session meaningful and inspiring. A special thank to Dr. Benau for an outstanding presentation. Your analysis and perspective added great depth to our understanding of how climate change and resources scarcity affect peace and security. I would like to appreciate Ms. Mariam as well for her wonderful hosting and smooth coordination throughout the session. Your efforts keep everything engaging and well organized. Today's discussion reminds us that while environmental changes like shrinking of Lake Chad Basin threaten stability, cooperation and inclusive action that can turn these risks into opportunities for peace. Indeed, climate action is peace action, I think so. And when we protect our planet, we protect our people. You know why that's it. And thank you once again for your active participation, inspiring ideas and comments to more peaceful and sustainable futures. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you. No problems. I will give you my email for following discussion and future maybe collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, we do have some questions in the chat. So maybe I'll go through a first one that's more technical, I believe. This participant said that it was mentioned that that a 1% increase in deaths from terrorism incidents leads to 4.45 gold customs fraud. Kindly explain this causation and why it's not the other way around.
So, excuse me, can you repeat the question? I am not understanding.
Yeah, so the question was that it was mentioned that a 1% increase in deaths from terrorism incidents leads to 4.45 gold customs fraud. Kindly explain this causation and why it's not the other way around, meaning gold customs fraud causing deaths.
So, thank you for this question. And the terrorist groups and the SUGLUM activities, the terrorist activities and SUGLUM activities are in reversely causalities. And more the terrorism activities improve, and more the SUGLUM activities also improve. And the SUGLUM activities, it is in financial sources for the armed groups and the extremist groups. And to finance our activities, they implement an illicit trade framework, and more especially they implement an illicit trade of gold minerals. I take the gold minerals, it is my research paper, and I take the gold minerals as in case studies of the illicit trade for the mining activities. So the example show that we don't view the situation as only cause-effect relationship. So there are a reversely causes effect between SUGLUM activities and terrorist groups activities. I don't know if I could respond to the question.
I think it's clear on my part. And I think we're gonna have to move to another contribution from one of our participants who said, why is the Horn of Africa still facing challenges, especially the IGAD countries like South Sudan, Congo, without the intervention of the African Union and without resolving these issues? Also, why is the Institute of Peace and Security that was established a couple of years back not intervening in African international affairs if each of the countries fail to resolve the internal problems by themselves?
So what is the question?
I think the question is more about the role of the Institute of Peace and Security in Africa in resolving these issues, and the African Union as well.
So I think that firstly, improve global understanding of issue. So it is the first, for me, it is the first mission that the Peace Institute must to promote. So develop discussion, develop knowledge, for example, knowledge about illicit trade management, knowledge about climate change negatively impact. This is the first aims tax that the institutes must promote. So secondly, basically, I must that the United Nations, United Africa Organization, for example, must to encourage leaderships, presidents, local partners to improve governance, to improve the capacities of the leaderships that govern the country. So for me, it is the two aims mission that Institute and United Nations or African Union must to promote. Globally, fight against illicit trade, improve knowledge, and secondly, encourage country to be faced against illicit trade. So, for example, I take an example when I propose to implement a climate change financial instrument for all states. It is very necessary that all states finance her climate change negatively impacts. It is an example that I take.
Okay, one last question to close the Q&A. So is the price of survival within this current security context characterized by climate change diluting sovereignty as we know it? So case in point, Egypt and Ethiopia, years of denial.
So the case of security and climate change, I think that Ethiopia, Kenyans, or all the countries in the Horn of Africa have some singular situation. The causes, for example, the causes of instabilities are not similar for each country. There are some countries that the instabilities is caused by some insurrection movements. There are some countries it is more terrorism activities that have been developing, and in the framework of a concept of climate and security programs, it is necessary that adapt each state, to the action and policy recommendation about the nexus between climate and security challenges.
Thank you so much for this response, and thank you so much for being our guest. I will leave the floor to my colleague to conclude our session.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Please excuse me. I can't open my camera. My camera is just not working. I don't know why. So thank you all for joining today's Peace Talks Plus session. A big thank you to Dr. Fawzi Banao for his insightful presentation, and to Mariam Mastari for her excellent moderation. Today's discussion on climate security and resource-based conflicts reminded us how deeply peace and the environment are connected, and how collaboration is key to building resilience in our region. At HOAPES, you see, the reason we started this organization in the beginning, institute, I mean, is that we stand as the voice of the people. We encourage everyone to speak up, share ideas, and keep contributing to the peace and security of the Horn of Africa. So thank you once again to everyone who took part, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Peace Talks Plus session. Let's keep the spirit of peace building alive, because we believe that peace begins with dialogue. So once again, thank you, Mariam, our moderator, and thanks Dr. Fauzi for his brilliant presentation. Thank you for all the participants that came today. And I'd also like to thank the ones who engaged and actually asked questions. So next time, please just know that your voice is your power, use it. And that'll be all for today. Thank you for everyone for joining. We'll see you next time.
So, Mariam, one second. I see that several people want to contact me, and I think that you can give them my email contacts. I have no problems about it.
Okay, that's perfect. I will leave it in the chat so that can everyone that's asking for it, that they can have it. And if anyone wants it, of course they could still contact us and we would be happy to share.
So yeah, if anybody wants the email, they can contact us and we'll share it directly. We just needed the presenter's consent first. We can't just give it out. So now that he's agreed, of course, it's in the chat right now, and whoever wants it can contact us.
Thank you.
So that'll be all for today. Thank you everyone for coming. Until our next Peace Talk session, keep the dialogue alive. Bye.
Bye. Good afternoon.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Good evening.